Hello? Where are you?
Hello, today I will be speaking about two films, Mad Max Fury Road and Snowpiercer. Both films share strong social commentary on religion and its role in society. Both films seem to focus heavily on critiquing social stratification, with an oppressive upper class taking advantage of a lower class for economic gain. These movies criticize the role of religion in society when intertwined with government. The reasons I believe support this argument are the religious teachings that brainwash students, the negative perception towards God-King figures in the movie, and how the conflation of religion and government work against social justice for the characters in the film and for groups of people throughout history. First, we will go over the brainwashing effects of the religious teachings. In these end-of-the-world movies, the government has control of the knowledge given to its people. It is especially apparent to look at how these governments teach the children, since they have less frame of reference and will believe whatever is told to them. In Mad Max, the religion worshipped by the people in the Citadel is the cult of the V8, and it's led by Immortan Joe. He is glorified by the War Boys, a group of young, ambitious warriors who have been tricked into believing that the only way to go to Valhalla, the Norse Hall of Gods in their afterlife, is by proving their worth to Immortan Joe by sacrificing themselves in battle after spraying their mouths with chrome spray paint. This looks ridiculous to the viewer, but the subjects in the movie are certain of their life after death. We aren't showed when the residents of the Citadel are taught about the cult of the V8. It seems to be widely accepted as common knowledge throughout the Citadel. However, we are shown the effects of these religious teachings on the residents of this society. It has children committing suicide in an effort to please a self-proclaimed God-King. The residents of the train in Snowpiercer worship the sacred engine. There are conventional schoolrooms in the train, but their curriculum is different than that of mine growing up. They learn about Wilford and the engine, which was designed to be eternal. They are taught that without its continuous movement, everyone will freeze and die. This is all taught to the children at a young age, when they will believe it without question, and learn to start worshiping the engine. They even learn songs about it.
What happens if the engine stops? We all freeze and die. But will it stop or will it stop? No, no! Can you tell us why? The engine is eternal, yes! The engine is forever, yes! Rumble, rumble, rattle, rattle, who is the reason why? Wilford Young! Wilford, hooray!
Oh, I love that one. Such a tonic.
To the residents of the back of the train and the audience watching the film, these classes seem to be brainwashing these kids' malleable minds. This is making connections to religious teachings all around the world, since kids are immersed into religion before they are able to make the decision for themselves. In Catholicism and many other religions, children start religious education as early as preschool and are brought to religious services as soon as they are born. And parents can also choose for their children to attend Catholic schools, which further blends their education and religion. These films show the brainwashing effects that this education has on the children, and critiques its role in society. Next, we will talk about the God-King role that the rulers of the train and Citadel both have placed themselves in. Not only are they both in control of the government, but they are also worshipped by their society as a god.
He turned his head, he looked me straight in the eye! He was scanning the horizon! No! I am awaiting! I am awaiting in Valhalla!
It is clear to the viewer that Immortan Joe is just an old man, but to this entire society, he is a god, and he uses this to live a lavish life while his followers remain malnourished and impoverished. The cult of the V8 is like many modern-day religions, with an afterlife that cannot be verified but is promised by the God King if you follow the guidelines of the religion. and the guidelines of the religion just so happen to help Immortan Joe remain an all-powerful ruler. Wilford is in charge of the train, as he is the one who created it, but he has also turned the train into a cult-like religion to worship him, helping him secure his power over the train and squash the idea of any other way of life. In both movies, it is hard for anyone to question the rule of the government, because that would mean that they're also questioning the will of God. This means change is slower, and people can remain oppressed if the God King keeps it that way. This parallels many societies throughout history. The strongest comparison is that between the characters in these movies and the Egyptian rulers worshipped as God Kings by their people, who were known to be the children of God. Ramses II was said to have over 100 children with many wives, which compares him to Immortan Joe and his breeders. These ancient Egyptian rulers were notorious for ruling a society with an uneven social hierarchy. It is said that 80% of the population was said to be slaves, peasants, or servants, similar to the uneven class structure in Snowpiercer and Mad Max Fury Road. The last argument I have is the effect of religion and government on social justice through film and history. In both films, the lower class is forced to stay in their place because the religion said it is necessary. In many end-of-the-world films, characters seem to hope for and cling to any greater power that they can to help give life meaning and purpose.
What are you doing?
Praying. To who? Anyone that's listening.
In end-of-the-world films, governments take advantage of this need that their residents have for a greater purpose behind life. The government in Mad Max Fury Road limits the amount of water and resources given to the people because the God King is the religious figure who is looked at as having all the right answers, and he said that it must be limited and that they must remain at the bottom of the totem pole, while he is allowed to live a lavish lifestyle.
Do not, my friends, become addicted to water. It will take hold of you, and you will resent its absence.
When Mad Max and Furiosa arrive back at the Citadel, they release the water to the people and let the people prosper without the unnecessary constraints given to the people by the cult of the V8, showing to the viewer that these restraints were not needed the entire time. Wilford has made it clear to the passengers of the train that everyone has a predetermined place in society. The sacred engine seems to show that this is the only way the train can function because of the balance needed to keep the train running properly. They can only eat a certain amount of fish, have a certain population on the train, and only a certain number of people can be in the front of the train.
In the beginning, order was prescribed by your ticket. First class, economy, and frail orders like you. Eternal order is prescribed by the sacred engine. All things flow from the sacred engine. All things in their place. All passengers in their section. All water flowing, all heat rising pays homage to the sacred engine. In its own particular, preordained position. So it is.
It is easy for the passengers of the front of the train to worship an engine if it is allowing them to live a prosperous life. The upper class believes that it is necessary to have those under them to help maintain their way of life. And with the religious power and knowledge of the sacred engine backing them up, they can justify their cruel treatment of the lower class, or freeloaders as they call them, for not purchasing a ticket on the train when the disaster originally happened.
You belong to the tail. When the foot seeks the place of the head, a sacred line is crossed. Know your place. Keep your place. Be assured.
This blend of religion and government helps prohibit the lower class from rising, and helps the upper class justify their reasoning behind keeping them down. Although the United States government gives its people the freedom of religion, it has deep Christian roots that has prohibited social justice throughout the years. Throughout United States history, politicians have put in place Christian values into their legislature, and thus has prohibited the LGBTQ community from achieving equal protection. Not a single U.S. president has been openly atheist while in office.
So help me God.
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 So help me God. So help me God.
I believe Bong Joon-ho and George Miller are showing us that religion and government are best left separate. Through the brainwashing effects of religious teachings, the God King's total power, and the injustice caused by the fusion of government and religion. I mean, how can a higher power play a role in a world where this happens?
I know what people taste like. I know that babies taste best.
And as always, have a great day.